Welcome back to the course on nanomaterials in agriculture. So, as of now, we have talked about in detail about one of the nanomaterials, iron pyrite, and then we have enumerated the different kind of nanoparticles including silver, copper, manganese, calcium, magnesium, zinc, carbon nanotubes, iron oxide, iron sulfide, and so on and so forth. So, it is fairly clear that in years to come, decades to come, nanomaterial based agricultural systems or nanomaterial supported agricultural systems are emerging, and especially it will play a very critical role when we will be talking about the precision farming or precision agriculture. So, keeping this in light, before we moved on to the role of nanomaterials in animal world, I wish to discuss some of the highlighting feature of the nanomaterials in the plant world, which will help us to appreciate how the nanomaterial based agricultural farming is going to shape up our future. So, let us look at some of the parameters, or let's enlist some of the parameters of the benefits what we are obtaining from the nanomaterials when they are applied to plants. So, let us enumerate them. So, we have the nanomaterials in the form of particles, sheets, colloidal suspensions, and here we are discussing in the plant. So, as we have discussed that there are different stages where they are being used. Either they are used as seed treatment or seed coating, seed treatment or seed coating is one aspect. The second aspect is mixing in soil adjacent to the plant root, or there is foliar spray. So, these are the three modes by virtue of which nanomaterials could come in contact with the plant, or when we talk about, so as long as we are talking about these are the geoponic sources, geoponic mode where we are growing the plants in the soil, and if we follow the hydroponic modes, when we are growing the plants in water or salt solutions, then we are mixing the nanomaterial in the hydroponic itself. So, nanomaterial becomes part of the salt solution which promotes the plant growth. Now, what are the benefits what we have observed? Let us enumerate those as of now what we have observed. We have realized that it leads to one, better, and I am not categorizing from which treatment it is coming, whether it is coming from seed treatment, seed coating, or by mixing into the soil, or by foliar spray, whichever. But overall what we are observing is the better root growth, better shoot growth, larger leaves, then higher rate of photosynthesis, and higher concentration of certain minerals, not all, but certain minerals. Now, if we look at these parameters, oh yes, apart from it, what we are observing, larger leaves, then higher production or yield in terms of fruits, seeds, as we have observed, as well as in terms of flowers. Okay, and apart from it, what we have observed is higher dry biomass. So, in other words, more carbon assimilation. So, this is the overall summary if I have to put it across on board, like the nanomaterials in the plant world. In one frame we have to look at this picture. So, this is something like this, what has happened in a single frame. If I had to summarize, so this is the summary sheet which will tell these are the effects or these are the benefits what we are obtaining by the nanomaterials, and in some of these cases what we have observed is nanomaterials are helping at a very low concentration, are helping in reducing NPK requirements. So, this is extremely important for us to understand that reduction in the NPK level will eventually help us to mitigate the problem of extreme amount of leaching which happens in the soil into the water bodies of nitrogen, phosphorus and potash and all other different elements or component of fertilizer which we are putting in excess into the soil. Now, if we look at rationally try to figure out what is happening, if we say that this leads to a better, say, root growth, something like this, okay. So, for example, this is the representative root I am drawing. So, what we are observing is the higher root here. Whenever we talk about better or improved, right, the right word will be improved root growth. So, we are essentially talking about more root hair, more soil penetration, more root spread. Now, all these three things will lead or will help these plants to acquire more nutrients because you have a more spread. Okay, so this will lead to more nutrient and water intake capability. So that means these kind of treatment could be an answer for growing crops in nutrient deficient soils. Okay, growing crops in nutrient deficient soils. When we talk about nutrient deficient soil, we are talking about a large part of African continent, Latin American continent, Asian continent, Southeast Asia. It's a huge array of landmass which are nutritionally so-called, again this is a very relative parameters when we talk about so-called, they cannot match the requirements of many of the grains, vegetables and pulses crops which has been set currently by Food and Agriculture organizations and other organizations or fertilizer organizations. So here is an opportunity where nanoparticle treatment, if it is done in a benign manner, if it is benign like iron, sulfur, something like a little bit of silver, a bit of copper, as long as we are not hitting into any kind of a toxicity zone. Carbon, as a matter of fact, which we have been eating since time immemorial. If you look at carbon, like we eat the roasted meat, barbecued meat, barbecued fish. These are all nothing but carbon. End of the day, these are all carbonaceous materials. So much of these carbons are already part of our food chain. So there are people who always argue about it, what is the toxicity of this carbon kind of material. But hey, if you look at it, we roast vegetables. If we really take out that blackening part and if you analyze it, you will see they are nothing but different forms of carbon in the form of maybe thin sheets, graphene like sheets, some kind of a tubes, like and so forth. We have been using kajal, many of you use that black stuff underneath the eyes for improved eyes or better eyes. That is nothing but a carbon. So as a matter of fact, carbon is part of our lifestyle, I think for centuries, for millennia. So why we make so much hype over it? Oh, this will cause toxicity and all this kind of stuff. Probably not. Of course, as long as we are maintaining a threshold, how much to use. So this is one aspect what I wanted to highlight here. Growing crops in nutrient deficient soil, maybe nano is the answer. Precision, you can really apply the required amount, and this could be another answer for fertilizer tuning. You can tune the fertilizer requirements for such soils. Okay. Similarly, you can use fertilizer in precision farming, where you really have to be very particular. So there are different areas where this whole nanomaterial will come very handy. Now, in the same line, if we talk about, then we are talking about another aspect. We are observing that the leaves have higher rate of photosynthesis. This is extremely important. Another aspect, if we look at it, think of it rationally. When we talk about photosynthesis, what we are talking about is, so your major source of energy on this planet, which is sun. Okay, and here you have a plant which has been treated with some kind of a nanomaterial, whether at the stage of seed or root or foliar spray, whatever. Okay. Now, higher rate of photosynthesis means rate of photosynthesis. This essentially means we are increasing the area of trapping the light. So, in other words, it means these plants will have higher level of chlorophyll, which has already been documented. Okay, higher level of chlorophyll. This higher level of chlorophyll means you will have a higher level of photosynthesis. So then, in a finite area of a plant growth, you are increasing the energy harvesting potential of the plant. Which is converting energy harvesting potential of the plant, where you are essentially converting carbon into carbohydrate. So, a plant which is getting from its root system more minerals and water by virtue of its improved root architecture, and the very plant having a better solar energy harvesting potential will eventually lead to a better and improved yield in terms of fruiting, flowering, foliage, okay. So, if you remember when I told you what are the snapshots I wanted to discuss with you, let me come back to the snapshot again. So, here we are having a nanomaterial, whether it is in the seed treatment level, seed coating level, mixing into the soil in a very trace amount, or it's a foliar spray, or even if it is in hydroponics, we are seeing better root growth. So, that is a help for nutrient deficient soils, shoot growths, larger leaves. So, that means higher solar harvesting capability, a better solar cell, a natural solar cell. That means also, and of course, higher rate of photosynthesis, here the next one, which means higher chlorophyll, and then higher mineral content, because this is a better root and better assimilation power. And what we are essentially seeing after that is that you have a higher fruit production, seed production, higher biomass, and better flowering. So, this is what I wanted to highlight, that nano is possibly the answer for those places where fertilizer affordability is a question. Fertilizer affordability is in question. Where fertilizer affordability is a question, nano could come as one of the most potent tool to counter the problem of, and mostly this fertilizer availability is directly linked to nutrient deficient soils of Asia, Africa, Latin America, to name a few. Okay. So, in other words, these small results, bits and pieces, because the whole field is growing, needs to be watched out very carefully with open mind, with a very positive frame of mind, without getting bogged down by, there will be always oppositions telling, no, this is toxic and that is toxic, and all sorts of things will happen. But with open soul, with open mind, if you look at it, you the viewers, we realize that we have to increase the production because there is no other way. And we have to be judicious, we have to be sustainable, we have to be precise. These results slowly needed to be translated into the field. It will be a slow drawn process, but with a positive frame, we as a race can make a difference of going to the next revolution, which is we are ushering into. History will be written like that we as a race emerge into the world of nano. Judiciously, if we look at it, and craftfully if we play the game, we can meet the challenge faced by mankind, the timid millions with their hungry souls. I think that's where much of our answer lies, using nanomaterials in a very judicious manner. Thank you.